Imagine handing the keys to a commercial airliner to someone who has literally never taken a single flight lesson.
Right, just because they, feel like they know the way.
Exactly. I mean, we would all call that completely insane. No one in their right mind boards that plane.
No, absolutely not.
Yet every single day, our culture tells you to do exactly that with your own life, with your career, your relationship.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
If you watch a movie or listen to a pop song or just read the bumper stickers on the highway, you are going to see the exact same piece of advice repeated over and over. Just follow your heart.
It is, it's the ultimate cultural mantra.
Totally.
And it sounds incredibly romantic. Like on the surface, it feels like this beautiful compass for living an authentic life.
Right, but the underlying assumption there is that the compass is actually perfectly calibrated.
Exactly. Which brings us to the core of what we are unpacking today.
Yes, welcome to Zion Recap. This is our deep dive where we take your sources, research, and insights and extract the knowledge you need.
And today, we are taking a deep dive into an incredibly powerful sermon. It was delivered at Zion CC on August 23, 2026, by Pastor Abby.
And her message takes that popular cultural mandate, the idea of blindly following your feelings, and just completely shatters it.
Because when you look at the biblical definition of the human heart, it paints a starkly different picture.
A much more dangerous picture than our modern romanticized version.
Oh, absolutely. So over the course of this deep dive, we are going to explore what the heart actually means scripturally.
We'll look at the psychological and spiritual mechanics of why it is so dangerous to let it lead you blindly.
Right, and how it physically and mentally gets strengthened through our hardest trials. Plus the tangible, real-world impact of a heart that is completely surrendered to God.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because Pastor Abby anchors this entire message on one very specific, very famous piece of scripture.
Proverbs 4.23.
Yes. Guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
And right out of the gate, we really have to deal with our definitions here.
Yeah, I mean, before you and I can guard something, we have to know what we are actually guarding.
Exactly. We have to strip away centuries of poetry and pop culture. Like, in the biblical text, the heart is mentioned around 750 times.
Wow, 750 times. That's a lot.
It is, and the authors weren't talking about the physical organ pumping blood in your chest.
Right.
And they certainly weren't talking about, like, a cute Valentine symbol.
Yeah.
Biblically, the heart is the absolute control center of a human being.
So it's the seat of your attitudes, your deepest emotions, your intellect, and your ultimate decision-making.
Yeah, it's the nexus point. It's where your thoughts, your feelings, and your reasoning all intersect to form your actual will.
Going back to our earlier analogy, it is the cockpit of the airliner.
Yes, perfect way to put it.
Or, if you want to think technologically, it is the central processing unit, the CPU of a computer.
The core processor that takes in all the environmental data and directs every single action.
But here is where I kind of have to push back a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
If modern neuroscience proves that the physical brain is what processes information and, regulates our nervous system, why does the Bible place all this immense weight on the heart?
That's a really good question.
Like, why isn't the mandate to guard your brain?
Well, that distinction is crucial to understanding this entire framework.
Yeah.
Scientifically, yes, the brain organizes the data. It does the computational work.
Right, the computing.
But the heart, in the biblical and philosophical sense, is what actually directs our ultimate desires.
Oh, I see.
The brain might calculate how to achieve a goal, but the heart dictates what you truly love and what you ultimately choose to pursue.
That makes sense.
Consider Deuteronomy 10.12, which says that God requires us to love and serve him with all our heart and all our soul.
Right, or Proverbs 3.5-6. That one tells us to trust the Lord completely and not to lean on our own understanding.
Exactly. The intellect alone, like the pure computational power of your brain, isn't enough. The core allegiance of your will, which is your heart, are what actually determines the trajectory of your life.
So if the heart is the cockpit, the brain is just the instrument panel.
Yes, that's exactly it.
It feeds you the altitude and the wind speed. But the heart is the actual pilot deciding whether to fly the plane toward a safe runway or, directly into a mountain.
And that leads to a massive blind spot in human nature. What's fascinating here is how Pastor Abby illustrated this by referencing 1 Samuel 16.7.
Oh, the story with the prophet Samuel.
Right. This is the moment when Samuel is looking for the next king of Israel. And he looks at a man named Eliab.
Who is tall, striking, and just carries himself like absolute royalty.
Exactly. Samuel's brain calculates the data and says, well, this has to be the guy.
Yeah.
But God stops him with a profound psychological truth.
Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart, which
Yes.
is such a brilliant indictment of how you and I live today. I mean,
Wow.
think about the sheer amount of time, energy, and money we spend curating the exterior.
Oh, it's exhausting.
We curate our wardrobes, our LinkedIn profiles, our physical fitness. We desperately want the exterior fuselage of the airplane to look flawless and strong.
But we completely neglect the interior control center. We literally leave the cockpit totally unattended.
Which is terrifying when you consider the cultural backdrop.
It really is. We are actively leaving the cockpit unattended while simultaneously believing the lie that we should just follow our heart.
Right.
If you haven't guarded your control center and you haven't actively trained it, following its default impulses is a guaranteed recipe for disaster.
And Pastor Abby did not mince words when exploring that danger. She went straight to Jeremiah 17:9-10.
The verse is about the deceitful heart.
Yeah, which describes the natural human heart as incredibly deceitful and desperately wicked. It is naturally prone to lie to us.
Right. Our default setting isn't authenticity. Our default setting is self-deception.
We see the collateral damage of this every single day.
We really do. Pastor Abby pointed out how often unqualified relationship advisors, like maybe well-meaning friends, will listen to someone agonizing over a terrible relationship choice.
Right, someone who is actively pursuing a partner who doesn't share their core values at all.
Someone who brings out their worst traits. And the friend just shrugs and says, well, you can't help who you love. Just follow your heart.
It is objectively the worst advice you could give someone.
It really is.
If the pilot is blindfolded and disoriented, you don't tell them to just follow their instincts.
No, you definitely don't.
That actually leads right into my favorite analogy from this deep dive because it perfectly captures the psychology of this deceitfulness.
The packing story.
Yes. Pastor Abby talked about travel anxiety. She admitted she used to be a chronic overpacker.
Oh, I think a lot of us can relate to that.
She would pack massive suitcases, throwing in extra pairs of shoes and 4 different jackets just in case.
The just-in-case packing strategy is such a universal human experience. It is an attempt to control the uncontrollable.
But she took it a step further. She recently helped a close friend pack for a simple 3-day trip.
And how much did she pack?
This friend packed enough clothes, shoes, and bags for 15 days.
Oh, wow. For a 3-day trip, that's incredible.
Right. But think about the mechanics of that behavior. That massive suitcase isn't about fashion.
No, it is entirely about fear. It's the physical manifestation of an unguarded mind.
Exactly.
When our heart is unchecked, it fills up with anxiety, projecting 1,000 different worst-case scenarios. It constantly whispers, what if it rains? What if I spill something? What if I need formal wear?
So we end up carrying around incredibly heavy burdens that we were never meant to carry, all because our deceitful heart convinced us that the threat was real.
We drag 15 days of heavy emotional baggage into a 3-day season of our lives.
It's exhausting. And if we give free rein to those chaotic emotions, it doesn't just stop at anxiety.
No, it gets worse. Pastor Abby reminded us that an unguarded heart leads directly to the destructive behaviors listed in Galatians 5:19 to up.
That list is brutal, but it's really necessary to examine. It includes hostility, jealousy, selfish ambition, envy, and division.
Let's define what those fleshly desires actually are in a practical sense. They're the natural human instinct for self-preservation and immediate gratification.
Basically at the expense of long-term peace.
Exactly. When you let a fearful, unredeemed heart steer the plane, it perceives everything as a threat. It crashes into hostility because it feels the need to defend itself.
And it crashes into jealousy because it operates from a mindset of total scarcity.
Right. So how do we overhaul a control center that is fundamentally wired for self-preservation?
Because we can't just ignore our heart, right? It's generating all our desires. But we can't trust it either.
No, we can't. It requires a fundamental rewiring, which actually begins with a promise.
From Ezekiel.
Yes, in Ezekiel 11:19-20. God promises to take our stubborn heart of stone and replace it with a tender, receptive heart of flesh.
A heart that has the capacity to actually respond to his spirit.
But receiving a new heart is only the beginning. For that control center to actually function under pressure, it has to be rigorously tested.
Which brings a very sobering reality into focus. Pastor Abby shared an incredibly raw story about a recent convert to the faith.
Yeah, that was a heavy story.
It really was. This woman was facing an overwhelming cascade of problems, specifically the serious illness of her daughter.
Heartbreaking.
In her pain and exhaustion, she told Pastor Abby that she just wanted to walk away from God entirely. It was too difficult to hold on to faith while watching her child suffer.
It is an incredibly relatable, deeply human reaction. When the pressure is intense, the natural default mechanism of the human brain is the flight response.
Right, we want to escape the source of the pain.
But Pastor Abby's response broke through that natural instinct. She referenced the biblical story of Job, a man who lost absolutely everything.
And she asked this woman a very blunt question. She said, "Whoever left God and had things go well?"
That is a sobering question to sit with.
It really is, because walking away is an illusion of control. Leaving God doesn't remove the tragedy.
No, it doesn't cure the illness or pay the bills.
It just removes your only lifeline during the tragedy. You are facing the exact same giants, but now you are facing them utterly alone.
Without a miracle-working God to anchor you.
To explain the mechanism of how we build the strength to stay anchored, Pastor Abby used the analogy of a baby's diet.
Oh, the milk and meat analogy.
Yes, babies cry over every mite or inconvenience because they are weak and they only consume milk.
Think about the biological reality of that metaphor. A newborn infant's digestive system literally lacks the enzymes to process complex proteins.
Right.
If you feed a newborn a massive pork steak, it won't just reject it. It will cause severe physical harm. They just don't have the internal capacity for solid food yet.
That makes so much sense. When we first start out in our spiritual journey, we lack the internal capacity to process deep tragedy or massive callings.
We cry over the spiritual equivalent of spilled milk simply because our control center hasn't matured.
Precisely. And how do you build that capacity?
Through testing. Trials are the exams of the spiritual life.
Wow, yeah.
By choosing to trust God in the middle of a crisis, you are building spiritual neuroplasticity. You are literally training your control center, forging new neural pathways that default to peace rather than panic.
So if you want to grow out of spiritual infancy, you have to pass the tests that life brings.
And as Pastor Abby pointed out, if you run away from the exam, God will often make you repeat it.
Until your heart develops the capacity to handle the solid food of his purpose.
Exactly. But a heart that survives these spiritual exams doesn't just change our internal feelings. It fundamentally rewires how we handle external pressures.
Especially when it comes to the people who hurt us.
Yes?
Which brings us to how this redefined heart actually operates in daily life.
The two areas where an unguarded heart causes the most destruction are relationships and resources.
Let's look at relationships through the lens of forgiveness. Pastor Abby painted a vivid picture of the physical toll of unforgiveness, specifically the development of a stomach ulcer.
The physiological reality of holding a grudge is terrifying when you actually break it down.
It really is.
When someone offends us, our deceitful heart tells us that staying angry is a form of justice. We think, I'm going to hold on to this rage so they learn their lesson.
But biologically and psychologically, your brain perceives that held grudge as an ongoing threat.
Right. It continuously pumps cortisol and stress hormones into your bloodstream, which literally wrecks your immune system and your stomach lining.
Meanwhile, the person who offended you is entirely oblivious. They're happily vacationing on a beach somewhere.
Unforgiveness doesn't chain the offender. It chains the victim.
A transformed heart understands that forgiveness isn't about letting the other person off the hook. It's about getting the poison out of your own cockpit.
It is the ultimate act of guarding your heart. You let go of the offense so your control center doesn't degrade.
And this same internal rewiring completely changes how we view our resources, too.
Right. Pastor Abby quoted Matthew 6.21, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
This is such a great diagnostic tool for you listening right now. Where are you stockpiling your treasure?
Because your heart, your desires, and your focus will automatically follow your investments.
Pastor Abby reminded the congregation that the physical act of giving, whether you are dropping physical cash into an offering plate or, tapping a giving app on your smartphone, isn't what God is evaluating.
No, he is evaluating the posture of the control center.
He is auditing the heart. Are you giving out of a sense of dread or guilt?
Or are you giving because you feel pressured by the people around you, like out of sheer grudging necessity?
Or are you giving as a cheerful giver, recognizing that every resource you possess is simply a tool to bless others? Because this temporary world is not our final home.
When you share that eternal perspective on what truly matters, it actually becomes the secret to enduring human relationships as well.
Yeah, Pastor Abby shared a beautiful, practical testimony about her own marriage of over 44 years.
Wait, 44 years.
Yes, over 44 years. And I loved her honesty here because it completely shatters the modern dating algorithm.
Oh, totally. Modern dating tells us to optimize for compatibility. We are told to find someone who matches our hobbies, our Netflix preferences, and our exact lifestyle rhythms.
But Pastor Abby joked that she loves walking around the house for exercise, and her husband completely disagrees with that hobby.
They don't have that daily habit in common at all.
Not at all. But what they do have in common is the immovable bedrock of their marriage.
Yeah.
They share a holy calling to serve God.
They share the same eternal values and the shared mission of teaching their children and grandchildren to love the Lord.
Which is such a profound paradigm shift for anyone listening who is navigating relationships right now.
It really is.
Pastor Abby's 44-year marriage proves that optimizing for purpose completely overrides optimizing for preference.
When your hearts share the exact same ultimate destination, you can easily survive taking different routes around the house.
Exactly. It's not about finding someone who likes all the same TV shows as you. It's about finding someone who will link arms with you in the trenches of faith.
And when a group of people with that kind of surrendered, purpose-optimized heart comes together, well, the real-world impact is absolutely staggering.
The internal work of the heart just explodes into outward, tangible change.
Pastor Abby was practically overflowing with joy when she shared the update from that recent mission trip.
The sheer scale of the impact was amazing because the congregation didn't just sit on their resources.
Right.
Because they actively chose to give their finances and physically travel to help. The landscape of that entire region is changing.
There are now active field missionaries operating on the ground.
Yes. There is a Bible Institute full of students, and just recently, 3 local youths from that very area started their first year of study for the ministry.
That is the macro-level ripple effect of a transformed congregation.
But what really anchored this for me wasn't just the big infrastructure projects, it was the micro-level impact.
Oh, the story about the graduate.
Yes. Pastor Abby shared this incredible update about a deaf-mute girl in the region.
Such a touching story.
This young woman is graduating this year, and it's happening specifically because one of the missionaries guarded their heart against their own convenience.
They recognized the value of this one life and took the time to learn sign language just for her.
Think about that for a second. A life completely transformed, an education completed, a soul reached.
All because someone refused to just follow their feelings of comfort. They listened to the Holy Spirit and said, I will learn a completely new language for one person.
The world is desperate for people who operate from that place of spiritual peace and purpose rather than cultural chaos and self-preservation.
Pastor Abby noted that the harvest is huge, but the workers are few.
Which brings the challenge right to your doorstep today. What decision are you facing right now as you listen to this?
Are you at a crossroads in your career, wondering which path to take?
Are you trying to figure out what to study? Are you agonizing over a relationship that just doesn't feel right, but you are afraid to let it go?
Pastor Abby's plea to us is simple, but it requires incredible courage. Do not consult your natural deceitful heart.
Do not just blindly follow your feelings. Consult the Holy Spirit.
Because your unredeemed feelings will pack 15 days of anxiety for a 3-day trip.
That's such a good reminder.
The Holy Spirit, however, will give you the exact provision, the exact peace, and the exact clarity you need for the step right in front of you.
Which perfectly aligns with the closing verse she shared, Proverbs 23:26, where God says, give me your heart.
He isn't asking for your spare time. He isn't just asking for your Sunday mornings.
He's asking for the control center. He is asking you to hand over the keys to the cockpit.
So we invite you to do exactly that today. Leave whatever heavy, anxiety-inducing decision you are carrying right now squarely in God's hands.
If you are wrestling with these concepts, or if you have questions about anything we've discussed today regarding how to guard your heart,
or how to survive spiritual trials, or how to actually trust God when the pressure is on,
we don't want you to try and figure it out in isolation. We would absolutely love to talk with you in person.
yes, please come join us.
We warmly invite you to come to small group this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m.
It is a fantastic, welcoming environment to ask questions and dive way deeper into this sermon with a community of people who are on the exact same journey.
And to catch the latest sermon and experience this teaching live, join Zion CC this coming Sunday at either 9 or 11 a.m.
Also, if you want to hear the full passion, context, and power of Pastor Abby's message, which we highly recommend, you can find the full sermon on Zion CC's YouTube page.
Just search for the August 23, 2026 sermon and find the video titled, Nosotros vamos a estar paradas todo el rato, ¿verdad?
It is incredibly powerful and well worth your time to watch the original source material.
And just a quick reminder before we wrap up our time together, Zion uses AI tools to help summarize information, sermons, and common questions to produce recap content like this deep dive.
Right, and while we work hard to keep everything accurate and true to the message, AI can sometimes make mistakes or hallucinate.
So always feel free to check out the primary source material or talk to leadership in person if you need any clarification.
Always a good reminder to stay rooted in the original text.
Definitely.
To close this out today, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder as you go about your week.
Okay, what is it?
We've talked a lot about the heart being the central control room and the ultimate treasure room of your life. Well, in Luke 6:45, Jesus says that our outward words and our outward actions are merely an overflow of what is already stored up in the internal treasury of our heart.
Wow. Yeah.
So think about this. What does your internal inventory look like right now?
That's a huge question.
If someone were to completely audit your private thoughts, your silent reactions, and your deepest desires over the last 24 hours, wait, no, just over the last day, what kind of treasure would they actually find?
That is a profound question to take with you today. Thank you for joining us for this recap on Zion Recap. Guard your heart, and we will see you next time.